do to move someone that we like that much as a person. I know that's a business goes beyond that as far as on the court, off the court stuff. So that was a challenge, but I hope he does well. I hope he gets an opportunity to play, and I think he will more than he was getting with us. So moving him was something that we did just more based on trying to help this team win. And as far as Gary, what he does for us, I think you all know. You've seen what he does for us. We're trying to help give this team a boost, near term, long term. He's got a couple more years on his contract, so he's thrilled too. I'm sure you'll talk to him, I think, tonight. As far as all the things that were surrounding the trade, I've seen what's been written and reported. I know you're going to ask, and you should. There's things I can't say for legal reasons and also for HIPAA reasons, and that's the truth. I'm not trying to deflect it. At some point, if we have information that we can give you, we will. But me speaking publicly on it behind the scenes, I don't think moves anything forward, and I think wouldn't be the best thing to do and not even probably allowed to. So I'm happy to answer whatever questions you have on that, on the trade, on what we think. And certainly if you want to ask about that, you can, and I'll do my best to respond. So that's it.
What about this situation rose it to the level that, I mean, clearly you guys have gone now to the league and seem to be upset with whatever, like what did Portland do in this process that made you do that?
Well, again, good question, but I can't answer as far as I don't want to go down that road of accusations, because that's all going to be handled at a different level and not for today and not for me. Gary's going to be out from our standpoint. We're going to evaluate him in a month and see where he's at. But it is our determination he's not ready to play right now. But when we get him back, hopefully we do get him back at some point. The goal would be pre-playoffs. That would be the hope. But until we get a sense of how the rehab process is going, I can't really speculate.
Hey, Bob, what are the rules on disclosure? What a selling team has to disclose? You know, like real estate, you have to tell if there's something wrong with your house. So are there league rules? And if so, were they violated?
Well, there are rules, Scott. One of the big rules is that once a trade deadline is passed, there's no ability to amend it. You see that sometimes in the summer time or when there is an open window. A lot of times these differences get resolved there. There's not an opportunity for that in this case. And so that is a recourse that is often explored in the past, and there's precedent for that. But in this case, the deadline had passed. So as far as what needs to be reported, what is reported, there's medical disclosures, there's conversations, things like that. And without risking specificity in this case, the normal course of business is just to provide whatever's required and do that. And that's what happens in all the trades, whether NBA or I think other sports too.
Was there ever a moment where you guys were seriously considering rescinding the trade?
Yeah, we looked at all the different choices once we had a little bit more information and gone through our physical, and based upon many different things, decided to go through with it. And, you know, we think that for many reasons, James, we didn't see a path, even upon return, wasn't playing at the time. And additionally, our situation's a little different because of the amount of money each player costs. And so if we had seen a path for James upon return that had changed, we might have considered that even going forward as we get into next season. We've seen what Gary can do, and it's not in any kind of indictment of James. It's a hard rotation to crack on this team. And so Gary, seeing the fit, seeing the need, our defense and things like that. So we certainly had many discussions, but we made the choice we made.
Well, kind of to follow up on that, does the familiarity with Gary weigh heavily into this? I mean, because you know him. I mean, it's not as if it's a player you've never seen or rehabbed or any of those things.
Yeah, sure. I think most trade deadlines don't work. Most times you get a player at the deadline and expect some big shift. It doesn't happen. I think one time when Clyde Drexler went to the Rockets years ago, it kind of changed the course of their season. I think when the Celtics got PJ Brown, I keep thinking that was a buyout. Most of the time, it's hard to reconfigure your team on the fly. There's only 20 something games left. I think 26 for us, maybe 28, 20. That's not a lot of the season. So whether it's us or any team, but when you trade for a player that's been here, especially our system is not simple. So to get somebody that knows our system, and that's the hope when Gary comes back, whenever that is, that he can, there's a familiarity. A lot of the same players he played with last year. We play him a little differently. We did play him a little differently than other teams. I think that's why he did so well with us. Our system is a little unique. And so, yeah, part of the reason we did it was that familiarity. We've seen how much he helps us. So that was some of the reason.
Given, sorry, Tim, given he has played this season, are you surprised that he'd even come back at all and played some this season, or has an injury, the post-surgery gotten worse? What's your medical assessment?
I think all I know now is that what I'm being told from our doctors is he's going to be reevaluated in a month. And what was happening before that's over, whatever it was. But I'm hoping that we can get him back for the playoffs, and he's now in our building, and I trust whatever they tell me, and we'll move forward, and we need him. Hopefully at some point he comes back and can help us, because I do believe if he does get back, there's a role for him. I think the coaches and players think that too.
Bob, was there a trade that you could have done other than this that you heavily considered, and were you prevented? Do you feel like you're prevented from doing it because this trade happened and then it went into limbo?
Well, Tim, I won't know, because this had momentum to it. There was conversations around this one, and maybe if that time had been used in some other capacity, but we looked at a lot of different things. There wasn't one thing that we all walked out of the deadline saying, well, we could have done that or we should have done that. We looked at a lot of different things, but I can't say if we hadn't done this, we definitely would have done that. But maybe with mental space around it differently, it would have been different. But there isn't something that I think there was some things reported, and we looked at a lot of different things, but nothing was at the 5-yard line.
And just as a follow up, his name was in the press release. His name was in the trade. So I know you don't like talking about other players, but Saddiq Bey was in the trade. That was the first trigger for this. Could you have kept him, and did you consider just keeping Saddiq Bey?
Well, I can't talk about him because he's not ours. But what I would say is that the trade we made at the time we made it, with the information we had, was what we thought was the best trade for this team. And that's all we could really do. With operate, when you make any decision, you make it based on the information you have at the time of the decision. And at the time of the decision, we felt like Gary was the best player for us. And as far as what are the other variables, one, I can't. And two, I don't know what it serves to say we would have done X, Y, or Z. We did what we thought was right.
He missed the first 35 games, and he was kind of in and out of the lineup, so I guess outside looking in, there was at least some level of understanding that he maybe wasn't having the healthiest season. How much did that play into it? And I guess how much did you guys ask about that? And
well, I think in these situations, we looked at the fact that he started the night before against our team, and you could look at it any way you wanted to. You were probably at the game. You could say, well, a player would be better in our system. We would use him differently. We would play him differently. I don't get into the mental space of a player. We traded for Wiggins. We watched him and said, well, maybe he can be better for us. So I didn't really factor in the thought that he would be out as long as he will be. I didn't think that. But we had a lot of conversations. But I'm not going to get into the specifics of what the conversations were with the other team.
But do you feel that they withheld anything from you, the Portland?
Well, I think on that one, Scott, that's another legal thing, and I'm not going to adjudicate that today at 11 o'clock here, and it's not productive for me or anybody else.
Hey, Bob, obviously the trade happened, right before the deadline, but how long has the idea of bringing back Gary back to here?
I think we recognize, like I'm sure a lot of you did, that this team could use some help, and went about trying to do that to the best of our ability. As you well know, any trade has to have a partner, and reluctantly moving James. I think we all wished organizationally it would have worked out better for him, but we didn't see a way for that to happen. And then thinking that we probably had a good top whatever you want to call it, 7 or 8 guys with Steph back, adding another guy into the mix defensively, pick and roll defense specifically, is an area that I think we wanted to improve on and targeted. With the defense not being quite as good as it's been in the past. And so the idea was, let's find someone that we like for the next 26 games in the playoffs, hopefully, as well as into next season and the season after that. And we have to be careful with the amount of money we take on in this trade. I think it saved us $6 or $7 million this year, and just apples to apples, $30 million next year. And our payroll is big, and that's great that I have Joe and the ownership group to support that. But we also have to be a better team. We've got to play better. We're 500, and it's our job and front office to evaluate if this team needs help, and that's the determination we made.
And you mentioned how Gary plays a very unique style for you guys, but with James gone, I don't think you guys have anybody taller than 6'9". How do you feel about the size on this team right now, and does that affect the buyout market at all?
Yeah, we'll have to look at the buyout market. I think much like last year's deadline, we moved forward with Looney and Draymond, who have kind of split minutes in the regular season. JaMychal's, I guess what you'd call our other big. Last year we had a couple other kind of non-traditional bigs that Bielitz is not in the NBA, so I can talk about him, but like a shooting big who did a nice job, and then another good player that helped us. We hope that we have enough, but we'll look and see. It's also determinative of how the coaches will use that player. For us to say, here's a big guy, and the coaching staff to say, well, we're not playing that guy. Doesn't matter if he's 7 feet tall or 8 feet tall. It has that any buyout conversation has to be done in collaboration with the coaching staff, because why bring a player in if they're not going to use them? But if there's a player that the coaching staff and the front office thinks can be helpful, absolutely, we'll go target that guy. But not there's a good John Wooden quote: Don't confuse activity for achievement. I don't just want to say, oh, we scoured the buyout market. Here's so and so, and the guy's sitting on the end of the bench. Because for us, it's $4 million. I don't know, it's $3 million or something like that, which Joe has done and would do. But that's the conversation with the coaching staff as far as who would play and who's available.
It's Willard and Dibbs, and you're listening to Bob Myers talk after the GP2 trade for the Golden State Warriors on 95.7 The Game.
Or whatever it might be, and compare them and say to Steve, hey, these are your options. Which player do you think helps us the most? And make that determination. And Steve, again, they're going to play, especially with this many games in the season. This is never a thing where, at least not here, where we say, hey, play this player. This is the guy. It's a collaboration, and we have to fit the system. We have to fit what will work here and what does work here, and that's the conversation with the coaching staff.
Said that a lot of action that happens at the trade deadline isn't the thing that magically shifts a team season, but when acquiring Gary, thinking that he'd be ready sooner than he is, did you think that he was going to be a piece that could help kind of turn the season and be an instant impact like that?
Well, I think help, yeah, but save, no. I mean, I don't think there's certain players that got traded there, but usually with any team, we all are trying to win, and we're all trying to help change our team for the better, increase our margin for error. And I think when we did that, yeah, we thought it would be additive. I don't know that anybody thinks it solves everything, but we think it was helpful. We still think it's helpful. We just have to wait till he gets healthy. That was the motivation behind it. I think it's motivation. But it seemed like this trade deadline, there was a lot more teams trying to do that than trying to go the other way. And I think that's why there was, actually, I guess 10% of the NBA was traded. So maybe it was a more active deadline than we thought.
James is still obviously young, number 2 pick. You guys this regime has never had a pick this high. How hard was it to move off of him? And was there internal debate about it even up to the deadline, or was it just something you had to do?
I think we debated it pretty heavily, mostly because I still believe he can be a good player. It may just be that his path required more minutes than we were able to give him. It may be that his time is longer than we can wait. But it's not an indictment of him. There's plenty of players that take a certain amount of minutes or a certain amount of time. And especially with missing a year, he's really there's a lot of things that he missed, not his fault, whether it's COVID or injury, where he just hasn't. He is a third-year player, but he hasn't got the minutes of that. So I think we had to evaluate. He's going to get those here, and didn't seem like that. And then with the cost and where our team was at, but yeah, certainly, Tim, we heavily debate. There's a lot of debate. There's always a lot of debate, which is healthy. I don't think that's unhealthy. And sometimes situations you have to be realistic about them. No matter what you want, you have to look at what it is. But the hardest part for me personally was who he is. And I know that's not important maybe to a lot of fans, and I understand that, and it's a result business, but the person that he is, I would bet on the person. Just a high quality individual, and those people usually succeed in life, and I think he will. So that was a tough one.
And I know you didn't call it the 2-timeline plan. Others might have and repeated it often, but what is the state of having, another set of young players who will be there to stand in for when the older guys kind of fall off or go? Is this now a complete restart of that?
I think it's a moment in time where we realized we tried to get better this year, and thought that move helped us, and still do, the move we made. And then you evaluate how this team finishes and move off of that position. But our goal when we drafted, I think, James, we were coming out of the playoffs, play-in, and we lost, and took the best player we thought was in the draft for us. We thought he was the best player at the time. And then the next season, we won it, right? Was it 2 years before? Okay, so he was the year we just were the worst record in the league. Don't want to skip that. So we had the worst record in the NBA, and then we took James, and then we lost in the play-in, right? Okay, and then we took Kuminga and Moody, and we won the championship. So it's hard to look at it. You have to evaluate each year. I think a lot of us would have thought coming out of a loss in the play-in to win the championship the following year. I guess those were our hopes. But let's see how this year goes and evaluate how it finishes. I'd love it for the team to be healthy and see what the end result is with a healthy team. The hardest part for us in the front office is evaluating a season that fell apart on health. So if we're healthy, come the playoffs, it'll be informative as far as where are we going? What is this team? Why did we lose? Why did we win? We've seen many of these players become champions last year, and that's informative too. So until they're not, we have to trust and believe in that, and I do. But until this season's over, we'll evaluate what we think going forward and what makes the most sense, and base that on performance. And hopefully, we get to see a healthy team do that.
It seemed generally clear, even Saturday night when Gary's sitting next to you during the game that, you guys are very likely going through with the trade. What was kind of the hang up, I guess, the last couple of days, and what are you guys still with this league investigation hoping to gain from, what's to come?
Well, I think once we learned that, and I think we had a sense of it pretty quickly, that a trade, once the deadline passed, the opportunity to amend a trade was moot. So just wanted to understand that better and get some clarity on that and think on that. And then we had the time we had to make a decision. So it was just more thinking about it. But yeah, probably by Saturday night, we had a sense of the direction we were going in. And what do I want? Whatever the NBA says is fair. Just whatever that is. Just want a fair result. So
do you think that'll be quick? I mean, what's your expectation on how long this
I don't know. I don't know. And whatever it takes, it takes. I don't know how long. I'd have to look back at how long some of these things have taken in the past when there's situations like this, but I don't know. I don't know how long.
What specifically is wrong with Gary? And is it a result from the surgery he had this offseason?
I think he's got a core muscle injury, and I think Raymond give me some notes, like an adductor or something in that nature. I think we'll have a better update tonight, but I can say he'll be reevaluated in a month. But it's a core muscle. It's abdominal abductor. I mean, I don't want to disparage the why of it. Like, why was it because of a surgery? Was it not? Was it rehab? I don't know, but that's what his injury is now. I don't know. I don't want to speculate on the connection of it, but he's got to get healthier to play. That's where he's at. No, when he left here, and again, you can ask him. I think he'll be available at some point. We didn't anticipate that, but it had. Suppose had he come back, would anybody have brought that up? But I wasn't under the impression that was part of the plan in the summer. But we didn't know if he was coming back. We didn't know who we were going to sign, so we didn't really know. I think it's all connected, but again, we'll give you if it's about the specificity of the injury, we'll give you that. I just don't we got to get that, and I think we'll have an update on that tonight. So, but you can give it generally core muscle, but